before she had taken it out of the account for the school. So when you get to that point, you just have to simply go to hands and say, "I'm doing it."
Good morning, everyone. Dan, we're good. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the February 25th, 2019 meeting of the Charter Authorizing Panel is called to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the ADE auditorium and ask that you please silence your electronic devices. The Charter Authorizing Panel oversees the authorization, renewal, revision, and revocation of charters. We have all of our members here today except for Dr. Williams. I think you have our nameplates here, so you can see who we are, and if you have any particular questions of us, you know who's up here. As chair, my goal is to facilitate a fair and responsible hearing. I will request that each person speaking please state your name and title for the record, and ask that you continue to speak clearly into the microphone for the benefit of the panel, the audience, and the viewing audience. Our meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and as always, we're very grateful to have Ms. Sharon Hill, our court reporter, who provides a transcript excuse me, of the meeting, and the transcript will be posted on the ADE website. Panel members, as we begin, we have on the consent agenda the minutes from the January 15th meeting. If you will take a minute to review those, I will accept a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, that is approved, and we'll move on to our action agenda. The first item on our action agenda is a request for Capital City Lighthouse Charter School. Mr. Ballard, you are recognized.
Thank you, Dr. Pfeffer. Reginald Ballard, Department of Education. On October 15, 2014, the Charter Authorizing Panel approved the application for Capital City Lighthouse Charter School. The charter is approved to serve students in grades K through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 750. Representatives of Capital City Lighthouse Charter School are appearing before the Charter Authorizing Panel to request an amendment to their current charter.
Okay, so will all representatives of the charter and anyone speaking in opposition please stand to receive the oath? Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you. And if you may go ahead and come on to the microphone, and you will have 20 minutes to present to us, and then we'll move forward.
Good morning. I'm Lanisha Roberts, the Executive Director for Lighthouse Academies here in Arkansas. And I stand today to request an amendment for our charter to serve only grades K-8. We currently have 8th grade right now. We really want to focus on our academic performance in those academies before we add any other academies to that. And we know high school is very rigorous as well. And our 8th grade class is fairly small. So we do have a transition plan for those families. We do have campuses in Jacksonville where we already have an established high school. So we want to begin the process of allowing them to go through the application process. We do have seats as for next year, and we'll also provide that transportation for those students. And we currently have maybe 12 8th graders, so it's not a big class. So we're asking to stop our charter at K-8 for now because we really want to focus on our academic performance in those academies.
Okay, so that obviously did not take 20 minutes. And we will come back if you want to respond to anything else. Do we have anyone here in opposition? No? Okay. And if you don't have anything else that you want to go ahead and present at this time, we'll start with questions.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I will start on this end. Mr. Baldwin, do you have any questions at this time?
I guess in reading your application, you talked a lot about the unitary status of the school districts. The unitary status of the school districts in your area in Little Rock and all that. Was that why the charter was started, or were you started beyond that?
Well, basically, we just started because of just the need for families to have choice in the North Little Rock area. There were no current charters in that area, and so we wanted to make sure that parents had an opportunity to have choice.
My final question would be, explain to me why the decision is, why you're requesting to stop at 8th grade. Just let me understand that.
So right now, we came before you guys earlier this month. You all looked at our academic performance. Of course, it is not where we want it to be right now. We really want to spend this time, making the systematic changes we need to make in order to improve the academic performance in those academies. And high school is a full program that requires a lot of attention, and right now we really want to focus that attention on those grades that we currently serve.
Okay. Dr. Kramers, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Rogers?
So I just would like for you to go into a little bit more how you're going to improve that, because right now your K-5 is an F school, and your 6 and your 7, 12 is actually a D. So by getting rid of the 8th, the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, how are you going to improve the K through 8?
So back to just our presentation earlier in the month, we've already started that process with putting in place those literacy structures that needed to be in place for those students. We've also hired interventionists in literacy and math to support teachers more. We just got approved for the school improvement grant, so we're going through the process of really doing some rigorous training for our teachers at that level. So the structures are already in place. We just know that a high school, one, is more expensive, and two, we would rather put our resources right now into that program to make sure that we have things in place versus, adding all the courses that's required for the high school that requires lots of monetary, it takes a big impact on our budget. So we're really rather right now focus on just improving the instruction at that level with our current teachers and making sure we can provide the resources needed to improve our instruction.
Ms.
You
Newton?
mentioned transportation. I'm not sure I follow. How does that work?
So we do have buses. So we would just provide transportation to those families that actually want to come from North Little Rock, and we will be willing, if they want to stay within our Lighthouse program, to transport to Jacksonville. So we'll just create routes for them.
You're talking about those who are going into high school. You would still provide that service?
Yes, for those going into 9th grade.
All right. Mr. Wilson? You have
No
any-
questions,
No
thank you.
questions? Okay. And so you currently, this is your first 8th grade group?
This is our first 8th
Okay.
grade group, so
Okay, so this is the time if you're going to make that decision?
yes,
Okay.
ma'am. We want to also allow parents the opportunity, so we're willing to take them on the bus to Jacksonville to tour the campus, allow the principal to come to Capital City to speak with them and everything at this point.
Okay. Any other questions from panel members? Okay, Ms. Hyatt, are there any issues? Okay. So at this time, seeing that there aren't any issues or questions, we can make a decision to, and I probably should have had Ms. Hyatt go through everything at the beginning, but we can approve the amendment request, deny the amendment request, or take the matter under advisement for a future meeting. So if there aren't any questions, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the amendment request.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations, your amendment request has been approved. Okay, our next action agenda item. I've lost my, hang on just a minute.
Can we get you guys to fill out the voting sheets on that amendment
Yes.
request? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't have my notes handy here. Okay, yes, let's go on to our online voting sheet. If you'll record your responses. Okay, we'll start with Mr. Baldwin to go through responses.
Yes, I voted for the amendment, and I believe this amendment will help them focus on their elementary grades and improve outcomes as a result of that.
Okay, Dr. Kramers?
Voted for the amendment to approve the amendments to serve grades K through 8, and especially while they're working on academic improvement, to be more focused as a reasonable strategy.
Mr. Rogers?
I voted for it, although I still have concerns about the overall F grade for the elementary school. Hopefully this move will allow them to concentrate for improvements there and cost savings.
Okay. Ms. Newton?
I voted for the motion. The amendment serves to strengthen focus on K-8 improvement in educational outcomes.
Okay. Mr. Wilson?
Same thing. I voted for the motion to allow Lighthouse to focus on its elementary grades, which it needs.
Okay. Thank you, panel. All right, so we will go ahead and move to the next item on our action agenda, which is for Exalt Academy of Southwest Little Rock. And Mr. Ballard, you are recognized.
Number 2 is a request for open enrollment charter amendment for Exalt Academy of Southwest Little Rock. On November 13, 2013, the charter authorizing panel approved the application for Exalt Academy of Southwest Little Rock. The charter is approved to serve students in grades K through 8 with a maximum enrollment of 540. Representatives of Exalt Academy of Southwest Little Rock are appearing before the charter authorizing panel to request an amendment to their current charter.
Okay, will all representatives of the charter and anyone speaking in opposition please stand to receive the oath? Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay, thank you. You may go ahead and come to the microphone. You'll have 20 minutes if you need 20 minutes, and if not, we'll move on forward, okay?
No, we don't.
Please recognize yourself.
My name is Tina Long. I serve Exalt Academy as the superintendent. Good morning. The reason why we're here this morning is for the waiver request of principal licensure. We previously have a waiver for superintendent licensure and a waiver for teacher licensure. Through the transition of kind of the new regulations, that one was missed. We currently have a principal with extensive experience in administrative leadership, charter school leadership. He served at several charter schools for several years, and has taken actually several graduate level courses as well, but is not a licensed administrator at this time. So that's the waiver we are requesting.
Okay, Ms. Hyatt, is there anyone here in opposition? No. Okay. If you have anything additional, if not, we'll start with questions.
Okay.
Okay,
No questions.
questions? Ms. Newton?
No.
No
questions.
No questions, okay. And to clarify, this is a waiver that you have had previously. It just got missed in our transition. And
Yes, we had an
standards.
administrative waiver before, and now they've separated out the principal and the superintendent. So we currently have the superintendent one and not the principal one. But it was what we thought we had.
Okay, so my question is the support for the principal. Do you have someone separate as principal from superintendent?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what does support for the principal look like and the expectations given your current academic standing?
Great. We have an entire academic leadership team, so he is not the sole academic leader. There are several members of the academic leadership team in addition to myself. We have weekly data meetings and administrative meetings focusing on the trends of student achievement. In addition to that, he undergoes professional development with our team. We all do together. So there's a lot of wraparound support for him. He's also a seasoned leader, so he's done this. It's Will Felton, so he's been in administration at Eastham, Lighthouse. So he has a background in leadership as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if there are no other questions? Okay. And I think Ms. Hyatt stepped out of the room. I wanted to make sure there weren't any remaining issues or public comment. Make sure. Okay, so if there is nothing further, I will accept a motion on this amendment request.
So moved.
A motion to approve the amendment
Second.
by Mr. Wilson and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, congratulations, and we will now complete our voting sheet. Okay, we'll go through our reasons. Mr. Baldwin?
I voted for the request. I believe the waiver is an appropriate request and consistent with current practice.
Dr. Kramers?
I voted for the amendment request. The waiver was in place previously and overlooked with the new standards to separate the administrative waivers out.
Mr. Rogers?
I voted for. I don't have any concerns as previously stated.
Okay. Ms. Newton?
I voted for the amendment. The waiver has a proven administrator to take charge of the program.
And Mr. Wilson?
I voted for the motion. I thought it was a reasonable administrative request.
Okay. Thank you, panel. And we will move on with action agenda item number 3, and which is a request for an amendment for Future School of Fort Smith. Mr. Ballard, would you present that to us, please?
On October 14th, 2015, the Charter Authorizing Panel approved the application for the Future School of Fort Worth. The charter is approved to serve students in grades 10 through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 450. Representatives of Future School of Fort Smith are appearing before the Charter Authorizing Panel to request an amendment to the current charter.
Okay. Thank you. And if at this time, representatives of the charter and anyone speaking in opposition, please stand to receive the oath. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. You can come to the microphone, and if you'll identify yourself for the record, you may begin, and you have 20 minutes for your presentation if you need it.
Good morning. I'm Boyd Logan, and I'm the superintendent of Future School of Fort Smith. I don't think it'll take 20 minutes either. So we're coming today to ask for a waiver around the beginning of the school year, the dates surrounding that. There's a few reasons for that. First of all, we are a 10 through 12 high school, so we get our 10th graders in August, and then we have a very short amount of time to try to make as much impact as we can on them for the ACT Aspire. So a little earlier start would be helpful in that. As well, our teacher this year, or next year, we're going to start an ongoing sustained professional development throughout the school year. So this little earlier start will allow us to embed more PD days into the school year, so it's not all front-loaded at the beginning of the year, and instead we're having sustained professional development throughout the year. We also, because Fort Smith School District is starting the same week, It'll ease the burden on our families who may have children in lower grades in other schools in the district to have sort of a uniform start so that we're starting at the same time as the school district is. And similarly, because of our staff who may have children in the district, it'll also help them with childcare and things of that nature. So we, within this, we're not asking to ever start before August 13th. We're not asking for that kind of early start. It's just around that first week, which I believe has to be on the week of August 19th. And so we're asking to start the week before that.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? No. All right, well, are you ready then for us to
Sure.
proceed with questions?
Absolutely.
All right, I'll start on the other end with Mr. Wilson. Do you
No-
have any
no
questions?
Thank you.
Ms.
No
Newton?
questions.
No, thank you.
No questions, Mr. Rogers? Questions on this end? Dr. Kramer?
Just curious, the rationale, how it was set later in the beginning, like, was there a certain reason it was set at a later date to open compared to the
We
surrounding
weren't
districts?
opening at a later date than the
Okay.
school. This is we're actually asking for a waiver to start a little earlier than what everybody else does. But if you'll remember last year, a lot of schools applied for that waiver. A lot of traditional public schools did as well, and we didn't at that time, but then
Okay.
we are now asking for that waiver.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
No. So my question, though, if you were granted this waiver, you could start as early as August 13th on any given year,
Correct.
and your school calendar is only 2 days longer
Correct.
as far as student contact days
Correct.
than a traditional public school.
Correct.
So by granting the waiver, though, you would, and I think, and Ms. Hyatt may want to help me out here, the school districts are receiving the waiver to start no earlier than August 13th, but that's a temporary waiver for most of those. Is that correct, Ms. Hyatt? So I think she's coming to the microphone.
Mary Claire Hyde, Arkansas Department of Education. The 1240 waivers that were granted for start date, I think, vary in length. I think the longest is 4 or 5 years. There's like a couple of years in a row where the start date to be compliant with the law was like in the middle of a week and caused an issue. So I think the longest is 5. And some just have it for a year or 2. But we have continued to see those 1240 requests this year for those that were only granted it for a year last year.
Okay. And so just in thinking through this, if this is a waiver that you were to have, would you anticipate starting as early as August 13th regardless, or are you going to try to keep your schedule within a couple of days of the Fort Smith School District?
Right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, ma'am. So right now, I mean, this is really a big piece of this is about just aligning with the district. In our first year, we didn't learn our lesson of aligning with the district, and it caused a lot of issues around attendance and a variety of problems that we had. Students who have friends in the district and they're all off on a certain day, and we're going on a certain day, and all of a sudden we have low attendance numbers on that day. So it's really about, we've learned the more that we can sync our schedule with the districts at this point. So that's really all what we're looking for at this point. We're not anticipating starting in July or August or anything of that nature. Also, we'll be coming before to reauthorize our charter in a few years. So I believe that we'll be looking at this again at that point.
Okay, that makes me feel a little more comfortable. Okay, all right. If there is no one to sign up, Ms. Hyatt, anyone for public comment? All right. Okay, if there are not any questions, I would entertain a motion.
Motion.
Okay, second. Have a motion and a second to approve this amendment request. All of those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, congratulations. Your amendment request is approved, and we will fill out our voting sheets. Okay, we'll let Mr. Baldwin start with stating our reasons for the public.
Yes, I voted for the request, and I believe the establishment of a uniform start date with Fort Smith schools is a positive decision.
Okay, Dr. Kramers.
I voted to approve the amendment request to better align with surrounding district calendars.
Ms. Newton.
I voted for the amendment request. Early start date aligns with schedules of surrounding schools in the district.
Mr. Rogers.
I voted for it along the same lines as everybody else has already said.
Okay, Mr. Wilson.
The same reasons I voted for the motion to allow better alignment with the surrounding district.
Okay, thank you very much, and we appreciate you being here. And we will keep on moving with our next action agenda item, and I believe it's Lisa Academy, is that correct? Okay, Mr. Ballard, would you present that for us?
All right. On January 12, 2004, the State Board of Education approved the application for Lisa Academy. The charter is approved to serve students in grades K through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 2,700. Representatives of Lisa Academy are appearing before the charter authorizing panel to request an amendment to their current charter.
Okay, I think we have several people here to speak on behalf of Lisa Academy today. So will all representatives of the charter and anyone speaking in opposition, please stand to receive the oath. Okay. If you'll raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. And if you will come to the microphone, whoever's going to begin, and each of you, if you come to the microphone to speak, just please state your name and title for the record, and we'll recognize you. And we'll begin. You'll have 20 minutes to begin.
All right, I'm guessing the forward arrow makes it go forward, right, before you start timing?
Go ahead. I won't start the timer
Okay,
yet.
good.
Looks like you've got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Lou Ann Baroni. I am the Assistant Superintendent and Lisa West Middle School Principal for Lisa Academy. And before I get into my presentation, I'd like to recognize members of Ozark Montessori Academy, Barb Pageant, the superintendent, and I believe we have board members here today, but she's going to speak briefly to you before I begin my presentation.
Good morning. My name is Barb Pageant, and this is the first time I have ever been excited to be before this panel. I am currently, for the last 13 months, have served as superintendent of Ozark Montessori Academy in Springdale. We are here this morning to request to voluntarily surrender our charter and transfer our charter to Lisa Academy.
So I'm pleased to be here today to present our amendment request to you. This is different than anything we've ever presented before. But just to give a little background on Lisa Academy, our mission has always been to provide rigorous academic preparation for our students and to cooperate with families to prepare them for college and career and beyond. Our 4 pillars are learn, innovate, support, and achieve. I want to go over our current structure so you can kind of understand who we are right now. We currently have 2 K-12 systems in Central Arkansas. We have 3 buildings in the West Little Rock area, Lisa Chenal, which is K-6, Lisa West Middle, 7th and 8th grade, and Lisa West High School, which is a 9 through 12 building. On the north side of the river in the Sherwood, North Little Rock area, we have currently 1 building housing all of K-12, but we've been approved and are in construction right now for a secondary building that will open this fall. So there'll be 2 buildings there, one serving K-5 and the other serving 6-12, beginning this fall. Some of the things that have led to our success over the last 15 years are that we plan academic success for each and every one of our students. We embrace the diversity of our student population and of the community that we serve. We work to prepare all of our students for college and career. We embed STEM engagement into everything that we do. We believe firmly in involving parents and families in supporting their students in education. And we work hard to collaborate and contribute to the larger community by working with other educational institutions in the area. Some of the evidence of our success you can see through our ESSA, Great Schools and Niche reports. We've had great scores with that in recent years. Lisa North High School actually had the highest growth of high schools in the state of Arkansas this past year, so we're proud of that. Not only achievement, but growth is so important for our students. Also, we're leading in our AB rankings. We're working always to make all of our schools A, and right now we're doing a great job with aiming in that direction. When we look at some comparative data, you can see that Lisa Academy has great scores on the ACT Aspire and also graduation rate when compared to both Central Arkansas, the state, and the Springdale area, which is the area we're looking at expanding in. Not only do we work on the academics, but we also have built a strong extracurricular program for our students. We have science fair, academic competition teams. We also have sports and just actually won a regional basketball competition, so that's a big deal for us. We also have lots of other extracurricular programs to meet the needs of students and help them to become well-rounded adults who can be successful in college and beyond. Some evidence of our diversity at Lisa Academy. As you can see, both our free and reduced population and our minority population have grown over the whole life of our existence. We've steadily increased both of those, and we've been recognized as the most racially diverse school in the state of Arkansas. Not only do we work to represent the community in which we serve, but we also want to embrace and celebrate the cultural diversity in our schools, and we sponsor every year a language festival, which we just had last month, where we invite our students to perform and we present to the public and celebrate the diversity of our students. College and career preparation has been a strong point for us throughout our history. 95% or more of our students each year have gained college acceptance, 100% graduation rate. U.S. News has recognized Lisa Academy North and West as number 3 and number 7 in high schools in Arkansas. The Washington Post has recognized Lisa North and West as number 2 and 4 among the most challenging schools in the state of Arkansas. Our students have been accepted to multiple schools throughout the state and throughout the United States. Our STEM exploration includes a lot of things. These are just some of them. Learning Blade is one of the programs we've been involved with. Girls Promise Coding Summit. We have Project Lead the Way in elementary through high school at different levels of the Project Lead the Way program. We have a space camp each year for our elementary students where they go to the space camp in Alabama and have a great time with that. All of our middle school students participate in science fair each year. And we also sponsor an annual STEM festival for the state of Arkansas. The newest thing in our STEM area is our Jig-Jag, our electric solar car, which students built. They designed it, they built it, and then they entered it in a competition, a national competition to drive from Texas to California. They didn't make the whole trip. Their car didn't make it the whole way, but they learned a whole lot. They're going back to the drawing board, re-engineering some things, and hope to compete again next year. And as you can see, it did survive the governor test driving it one day out in front of the Capitol, so it was pretty sturdy. This is something we're really proud of, and it's our STEM festival that Lisa Academy and UALR initiated in 2015. The 4th annual STEM festival was held last year in March. We had over 2,000 students from all across the state, not just our kids, but kids from schools all over the state. We'll have the next one on March 8th. We'd like to invite you all to attend. It's a great time to see kids interacting with science and technology and math, and I love to see the wide-eyed little kids watching while the middle and high schoolers do the demonstration. So it's a great event, and we'd love to have you there if you can join us. Another strength that I think we have had over the years is engaging families and bringing those families into what we're doing. We know that it takes teamwork for us to be successful in helping our students. We do home visits. We've had over 200 home visits this year. We have over 2,000 hours of volunteer service that families have contributed to our schools. We have lots of activities going on all the time. One thing in particular we do each year is a Thanksgiving dinner with our students involved in our intervention programs, where we just invite the families to come in and get to know them better. We don't sell them anything or expect anything other than getting to know them and to support them. We have a lot of the traditional kinds of things on our campuses as well, where we invite families into our buildings. One of the things that we're very proud of is the way we collaborate with other schools in the area. Some evidence of that is we participated in a pilot with the Circles program, which is for students with special needs going through the transition program in the high school. They work together with community services to plan their own transition into college and career. We've also provided a conference where we've invited educators from throughout the state to come and share best practices and work together to find solutions for students. We have hosted the Little Rock School District Superintendent and the North Little Rock School Superintendent on our campuses to just talk shop, to talk about school and what we're doing that's working, what we can learn from them and what they can learn from us. We've had teachers visit from Helena, West Helena as well, just to kind of see what it is we're doing that's working. And we're happy to be that laboratory and to test things and share them with others. There's been a steady growth in demand and enrollment for Lisa Academy since our inception. As you can see, we've grown from just under 300 students to around 2,200 today. We currently have a wait list for all of the grade levels in Central Arkansas. The demand for Lisa Academy is something that we've heard from other parts of the state. We have received some requests from community members who are interested in a Lisa Academy school in their area. As a result of that, last year we decided to form a committee to kind of explore what would be the right environment for us to feel like we could go in and offer something to a community. So we formed a committee to look at that. And these are some of the important criteria that we determined would help us make a decision if an area is suitable for us to grow. First, we looked at student population. Also, is there limited school choice in the area? Is there population growth that's positive? Is there proximity to a college or university so that we can work in that collaborative way with them? Is there diversity in the community? And is there industry that demands STEM-trained workforce? After taking a look at that, we began to look at the Benton, Washington County area because we felt like they met the criteria, and that was an area that we had some interest from some of the community members of us opening a school there. So as we began to think about the Benton and Washington area, we were looking at some properties and thinking about it, and an opportunity to work with the school that's already there came to our attention. So I'd like to ask Barb if she would come up. And just kind of tell you a little bit about how we came to work together with Ozark Montessori Academy. So.
Barb Paget, Ozark Montessori Academy. Our admin team has spent the last year working to put Ozark Montessori on a path toward financial and academic stability. With the help of Alexandria Boyd and Virginia Perry, we were able to reestablish contacts with the ADE. We've been able to reach out to the ADE to help us make things right for OMA. No matter how difficult the situation was for us or how discouraging, the ADE always stepped up with kindness, solutions, and respect. We have money in the bank this year, and we are projected to end the year in the black. But most importantly, through all of this process, our children are happy and they're beginning to grow academically. We are here today because, in spite of the great strides that we have made, we know that the model that we currently have is not sustainable. It would take us several years to be where we need to be academically and financially. Our children need more now. A year in the life of a child is an eternity, and we can't take any more of their valuable time. For this reason, we reached out to ADE and APSRC for assistance, and it was then suggested that we look at options to transfer or surrender our charter and to join with an academically and financially successful entity to ensure that our children could remain together in their school community. To us, it's a building. To them, it's a life and a school community. Throughout this process, our board and our admin team looked at several different options, talked with several different folks, and we kept coming back to Lisa for several reasons. Lisa's student population seems to mirror ours with regard to racial and ethnic diversity, free and reduced lunch, ELL, dyslexia, and special education. We liked Lisa because Lisa is committed to educating all children, even the most challenging. Also, we found that the organizational structure of Lisa is very impressive. They have administrative, financial, technological, and academic structures in place to help the students at OMA to be successful. Their team has been such a rich resource for us this semester, and they've been sensitive to our feelings. It isn't easy for me to come before you today and ask to give up our school that we have grown to love and to hand over our children. But we at OMA trust Lisa to do what's best for our children. We have 148 students currently, and 134 of these students have already signed intents to return with Lisa next year if you approve our request. We are confident that surrendering our charter is the best option for our children, and we will be grateful today if you will approve our request. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Just to reiterate, we've been working with Ozark Montessori. This semester, we actually started in the late fall. It began with an approval of a memorandum of understanding by both boards. We started off with an evaluation of the situation. We then met with stakeholders. We had a couple of large parent meetings with very good turnout, met with the board. We've met with staff to get their input and to try to be sensitive to this transitional process and to find out what their needs are. We've utilized ACT Aspire interim and other diagnostic tests so that we can see where the students are currently and how we can help them. We've provided a part-time project manager, that would be me, as well as part-time ELA and math leaders to support OMA. We've restructured, worked with their administration to restructure their schedules so that they're getting grade level instruction, and we're providing a full-time math teacher. Actually, a math teacher from my middle school building has relocated there and is teaching their upper level math to really support them and provide what they need there. We've been providing support for cycle reporting and standards in eSchool. We've provided a great deal of technology support. We've purchased Chromebooks and Chrome carts, have just upgraded Wi-Fi, and are providing online resources like MyOn for reading, iReady, STEM Scopes for science, and are working to train their teachers to implement that with the students. We've also been advising and supporting them with budget support and feel confident that we understand where the finances are and that they'll be able to finish out the year with a balanced budget. There is a strong interest, as Barb alluded to. Most of the students want to return to Lisa next year. When I did this slide, we had 65 people who had filled out an interest form online. This morning when I checked, we had close to 90 who filled out that interest form. We've done no advertising other than to put an interest form on both of our websites. So there is a good bit of interest in the area for Lisa School there next year. So the turnaround strategies that we plan to implement is to have student-focused education with our STEM way of delivering students' curriculum. Also intervention, acceleration, extracurricular activities to meet the needs of the students. We will provide leadership and staffing. We're going to work with the current staff to retain as many as we can who are qualified and willing to work with Lisa. We'll also provide building leadership with someone who's experienced. We'll have resources. We've already started the technology upgrades, and we'll continue to do that. We plan to have a lot of opportunities for families to engage with us and for us to hear more about what the needs are in that community. We'll, of course, implement our home visit program as we've done in Central Arkansas. We've already begun to work with some of the subpopulations in the area to better understand what we need to do to deliver a good educational experience in that area. So our amendment request today is that the charter of Ozark Montessori Academy be transferred to Lisa Academy for the 1920 school year, serving K through 8. We're asking for a cap increase of 600 students for next year to serve that area. The 600 would allow for growth at that location. We're asking that existing waivers remain in place, and we have some additional waivers that will effectuate some law changes and rule changes. We're also seeking an amendment to request the name change from Ozark Montessori Academy to Lisa Academy Springdale. And we intend to change the new transfer school sponsoring entity to Little Scholars of Arkansas Foundation, which is Lisa Academy. And that's all I have. I've lost my time. I'm now on a compass instead of a time. So I wanted to ask if the board members from Ozark Montessori Academy had something to say. Is there still time left?
There's about a minute left, but go ahead.
To say quickly,
we can go ahead.
Sure. So just in a minute, just want to say that from a board perspective, we're extremely constructive on this. The partnership with Lisa and OMA for this transition period has been great. And as we look across the landscape of charter schools in the state and in the country, you really get to see how impressive Lisa Academy is, and who wouldn't want something like that for their community. And the number one most important thing for us is ensuring, A, that there's a school remaining in that spot where we started one, and B, that it's as high quality as possible for the community and the students and families and taxpayers, of course. And so we're extremely grateful and very happy to be making this transition.
Thank you.
Okay.
Be happy to answer questions.
At this time, okay, I started to say, we'll go ahead and state your name for the record, so we have that.
It's Ben Temple, president of Ozark Montessori Academy Board of Trustees.
Okay, and then if there is anyone to speak in opposition, they have 20 minutes, and then you have an additional 5 minutes if you would like to use that. Okay. So we do have people to speak in opposition, okay?
Good morning. I'm Kendra Clay. I'm the Director of Student and Legal Services for the Springdale School District. I'm not here necessarily to speak in opposition, but this seems like the most appropriate time to bring a couple of concerns to your attention as you begin asking questions. First of all, anybody that's educating kids in Springdale, we want to be a partner with, especially the way that Ozark Montessori and potentially Lisa Academy are to be structured. When those kids finish in whatever grade, we hope they come to Springdale Public School District and continue their education. Two things I hope your questions would center around. First is the large population of English language learners we have in Springdale. Currently, our population of English language learners is over 50% of our student population. Our student population is almost 23,000. So when you think of the number of kids in Springdale that are English language learners, that is very high. So anybody who is operating an educational system in Springdale needs to consider that. The second thing would be something that's a challenge from, at least my opinion, anybody operating a charter is transportation. Of our 23,000 kids, over 2/3 of those kids are riding buses every day. So any group that is operating in Springdale has that to consider. That's a need for our students is what I want to say. Otherwise, we're here to answer any questions that you may have as your conversation begins, but just want you to be mindful of the educational conditions that Springdale is a little bit uniquely situated in the state of offering and educating such a high number of English language learners and free and reduced lunch students. So we'll answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll let you begin your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Clay. Is there anyone else to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none, the applicant will have 5 additional minutes if there's anything you would like to present. Please
Hi,
state your
this is-
name and
yeah,
position for the
This is
record.
Fatih Bogduk. I am serving as the superintendent of Lise Academy. I would like to also give our ELL population and Hispanic population numbers. I'm sorry. Yes, Lise Academy has 24% Hispanic students, and our LEP population is 16%. And Lise Academy is also the most diverse school district in the state. I think Springdale is the second after Little Rock. So we have a diverse staff and we have diverse population. We have a lot of activities and small group instruction for them. Definitely, we will, we are aware of the, diversity of that area and, the population of LEP. And then we will be prepared for that. And also, this academy is the most collaborating charter school in the state. So we are excited to collaborate also with Springdale or the other school districts to improve our education and move education forward in that side of the state.
Thank you. Is there anything additional from the applicant? Okay, so if not, we'll go ahead and move to questions then, and start with Mr. Baldwin. Do you have questions?
Let me start by commending you all on the obvious thorough analysis that you've done of this potential, and also the fact that you're working together to accomplish it. I thought that was impressive. Two questions really. One is, have you done this before? And then the second one is, what do you think your biggest challenge would be? And maybe also let me ask about the transportation challenge.
To answer, have we done this before? Not exactly. We have, expanded, opened new schools, so we're familiar with that. We started in Little Rock, opened a new charter in North Little Rock, which began as a separate charter until we unified those charters in, was it 2012? Sometime. So we have combined two charters, but they were both LISA charters. So procedurally we have, but we haven't opened one, an independent new operation like this before. We've done a good bit of research on it and have tried to do as much preparation as we think we can possibly do without actually doing it. So let's see, your second question was, I'm sorry.
The biggest challenge that you...
The biggest challenges, I think the biggest challenge, and Barb and Dr. Fati, you can chime in here, but I think our biggest challenge will be getting to know the community there. Little Rock, we started in the Little Rock, Central Arkansas area, so we've learned this area. We kind of understand what the challenges and opportunities are here. So learning a new community, I think, will be a challenge, and making sure that we've got support set up to support that campus while it's standing there alone. We have made some preparations so that we do have that, but I think that may be among the challenges. In terms of transportation, we do not currently have a plan for offering transportation, but the students who are currently attending Ozark Montessori Academy have not, that hasn't been an obstacle for them getting there. So I think what we're going for right now is to meet the needs of those who are willing to come to that school right now, to continue meeting the students' needs who are there, and then to add the families that want, an alternative opportunity. We don't by any means think we'll be as large as the Springdale School District, but we do want to meet the needs of that community and the families that want that smaller environment. So does that address your questions?
Madam Chair, may I follow up on Mr. Baldwin's question?
You may.
Because you addressed, I think, quite comprehensively the procedural process. My question is philosophically, the merging of the Montessori model and the public education through the public education model. Those two things, to me, and I may just have enough information to be dangerous, but it seemed to be two different approaches, and one doesn't seem to follow or merge with the other. So for whatever time they've had their students, and to have those two things come together, help me understand how you guys expect to address that.
Do you want to speak to that? You know the students there best.
Barb Paget, Ozark Montessori. Montessori is an amazing method with amazing materials. Had Montessori been married to state standards from the very beginning of our charter, we would have been amazingly successful. But that did not happen, and what has happened is we have found that our students were getting farther and farther and farther behind with regard to ACT Aspire and iStations and all the data that we had. So we actually polled our parents and did a survey to find out how many people were there actually for Montessori. Because like you, a lot of people have just enough knowledge to be dangerous about Montessori. What we found is that most of the students and parents chose Ozark Montessori was not for Montessori, but it was for the small, caring environment that we offer to our students and the neighborhood school. So it's the antithesis. We have Montessori education going to a STEM school, but with the support of our board and our parents, as evidenced by the fact that 134 kids want to come back and be a part of LISA.
Did that address your question?
I think so. It's just hard for me to process going from a less structured, not necessarily, that's not a critical piece, but going into a really highly structured environment and the struggles that are inherent with that seems to pose a dilemma for students and parents, especially with the high concentration of ELL learners possibly. I don't know that would be a particular challenge, but it's hard for me to understand how the transition won't be just completely disrupting. But I'm not saying that's not necessarily a reason I would be against it, but it does present another a challenge. It's almost like moving a person that's non-speaking English into a completely speaking English. You know, it could be seen as that with other challenges as well. So I just was wondering how that particular issue or those issues that arise as a result of that will be addressed at LISA, probably more so than
I would
Montessori.
love to address that right now.
Okay.
What we have done this year, as many of you may know, the Montessori system is a multi-age system. At Ozark Montessori, we had kindergarten standalone, and then we had lower elementary grades 1 through 3 and upper elementary grades 4 through 6. This year, in looking at the standards and comparing the standards to what we were doing with the Montessori piece of it, we realized that the kids, one teacher teaching 3 different standards, sets of grade level standards, was very difficult and was part of the reason that we continue to struggle with our scores. So at the first of this year, we departmentalized. And we have standalone science, ELA, and mathematics classes for our upper elementary. So that process has already begun, and the kids love the structure. I think some of them actually craved a little bit more structure than they had had previously. At semester, knowing that we needed to do something to improve student growth, we broke our our 1, 2, and 3 into 3 grade levels. We have 1 first grade, 2 second grade, and 3 third grade classes now, so that the teachers are only responsible for teaching 1 set of standards, and we're already seeing academic growth from this model. So actually, even with Ozark Montessori, we're still using Montessori materials, but we've already made a transition to a more successful structure for the students.
Please state your name and title for the record.
Yes, ma'am. Jennifer Keith, Secretary of the Board of Trustees, and also a parent. And that was why I also wanted to step up to address Ms. Newton's question, because as a parent, 4 years ago, I brought my children to Ozark Montessori Academy for Montessori. I stayed because of the small school atmosphere. And I have felt, especially for my son, that it was what he needed for his learning style. He needed the less structure and the more ability to kind of work through things on his own. What I've really liked, and it is, as you expressed the concern, it is a very major transition. However, what's been wonderful with working with Lisa, and I've had the benefit of working both as a parent and on the Board of Trustees to see the transition. By the transition that Ms. Barb just explained, they're really easing these kids into the new setup. So we're taking them from where they were in the fall and realizing we're going to have a major transition next year for those kids who do stay. They're kind of having a interim now where they're still in the same classrooms with the same teachers. Well, not all the same because we did split into the grade level changes. But for the most part, they're able to stay with their peers and begin this new way of learning while still staying in a comfortable situation. So for those who have been doing one and will continue to do the other, they're getting a transition period, which has been fantastic. And then for the new students, it'll be the same for them. So thank you for your question. It's a good question.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson, do you have a question?
I did, yeah, just to follow up on Ms. Newton's question just a second. As I understand it, Lisa has, under a memorandum of understanding with Ozark Montessori, been operating and conducting the school for the last several months, is that right?
We've been essentially consulting and providing support services. The administration is still there. Yeah, we've been working with them since late November. We provided the second semester actually had an opportunity so that we could provide one of our teachers actually there for math. That's the only full-time staff member that Lisa Academy has provided. I'm going up about every week to help with it. We have English support, elementary curriculum support, math support, IT people who are just going up and providing support to the current administration and staff.
So Lisa's provided both some degree of administration as well as classroom instruction in that?
If you think of it more as consulting, that's more of what we're doing. The people are still in place who were there before. The same administration, essentially same teachers still there. Only one teacher we've provided there, and the administration is still the same. We're just coming alongside them and helping to guide them and helping with training, with curriculum and online resources.
Well, to follow up again on Ms. Newton's question, during that time that you all have provided administrative help, have you run into, or classroom instruction help, have you run into problems melding or merging the Montessori and
I don't think there really have been any, and as Barb said, they had already begun aiming in that direction this year because they were seeing that students were not achieving the grade level standards that the state requires. So they had already begun to do some of that remolding, the Montessori model to better meet the state standards. So I think it has been a gradual step process. And I think from what I've seen, when I've been there visiting classrooms, if you walked in the room, you might think it's still a Montessori classroom, but because the kids are like sitting around in different places, but they're working on grade level state standards now, instead of working at their own pace with multi-grade levels in there. So
Thank you.
I think it's been fairly smooth.
Along that line, I'd like to ask if the Lisa staff is training in RISE so that they can teach reading and aligning curriculum, so that's that the
Yes,
Lisa
ma'am.
staff being trained?
We are,
Okay.
yes. We are diligently getting all of our folks trained. They're over there nodding. There are two of them in the trenches with that every day, yeah. I'm even wearing my reading bracelet. Love to read.
Okay, Mr. Rogers?
First of all, the amendment request is for 600. Is that 600 cap, is that, I mean, to increase your cap by 600, is that to be applied all towards Springdale?
It would all be for the Springdale campus. Currently, we wouldn't be able to put that many in there the way the building is constructed right now. But the K-8 model, 600 we feel like is a reasonable number to grow a K-8 school to maximum capacity, which might require remodeling the building at some point down the road. So
Okay, so when would that be? Because if we gave it 600 right now, but you only have 134 kids, so what's the time frame?
We're anticipating,
Yes.
do you want to talk about
Yeah.
kind of the number projections?
First
Yeah.
year, but by 2024-25, in our projection, we are going to have around 600 students, hopefully, if we have a demand. So it's a projection number for 5 years, and then this is why we are asking 600 now for the future, So our projection next year is 200, following year is 255, and then it goes on, and then to 2024-25, around 600 that we are going to reach with this projection. So this is why we are asking 600 academy.
But you'll have to do some kind of remodeling to the building to get them all to fit in there?
We would, the way the building is structured.
Would you stand to the microphone, please?
I'm sorry. The way the building is structured now is they're huge classrooms, so it would be fairly simple to restructure the building to break up the space a little bit so that we could fit more kids in there.
Okay.
Dr. Kramer's questions?
I was looking at the budget that was included, and for 1920 and 2020, 2021, it's acknowledging the projected number of student growth. So you're stating you need an increase in capacity as far as how many students can be, that you would like to have accepted into the school. What concerns me is the number of staff projected on the budget is exactly the same. Now, I know some of that you said is Lisa Academy is providing a part-time staff member for English and then somebody for math. So I'm worried about how you're going to be able to take care of all the new students without any additional staff increases and no budget acknowledgement of that. And then also, at the end of the year, the budget balance, I'm concerned with what funds for any type of facility changes. Your end of the year balances are very limited right now. 16,000 for 1920 and only 39,000 projected in the black for 2021.
First of all, number of staff, when we make the budget based on the number of classes and sections. The section numbers are the same, like next 2 years. But for example, in the 6th grade, we will have just maybe 7 or 10 kids the first year, but the following year is going to be 20. It's not going to make any staff changes, just in the classroom we will have more students. So currently right now, in the classes, like in the 6th grade there are 7 or 8, in the 7th grade there are another 7 or 8. So we are going to add more students in those classes. So the first 2 years we are expecting the same staff members, just we will have more students in the classes. But the following years definitely we will need more staff to cover the 600 students.
And along that, what is your student-to-teacher ratio? And then what are your plans and what staff do you have existing to cover the English language learners and then also the extra English and other staff? I'm sure they're licensed, certified teachers. Just kind of, if you would explain a little bit more about your staffing, student-to-teacher ratio and all of that, please.
Yeah, again, usually in our central Arkansas locations, we have around 25 students, 28, in the middle school, 25 in the elementary. So we will keep the same ratio in that side too. But right now, current, numbers, we have, around 7-10 students. This is why, we will add more students in each class in a few years. But our ratio here, we will try to keep the same in the Springdale location too.
So did I hear you right? You're saying you're expecting an additional at least 134 new students, correct? You've stated that in your presentation, approximately, and then you already have 90 new applications.
134 is the students who are currently there who have indicated they plan to return if it's a Lisa Academy school.
Okay.
We have another 80-something right now who have expressed an interest in the school without any advertising and without applications opening. So we feel like we'll have plenty of students to reach the goal of the around 200 for the first year. And you had asked about teachers. There are some teachers at Ozark Montessori Academy currently who are interested in continuing with Lisa and who have either certification or highly qualified status. So if we have a case where a teacher is already there who's interested in continuing and meets, the qualifications that we want for a teacher, we want to continue with those. We also have some teachers in the Central Arkansas area who have expressed an interest in going there. We would like to do a blend of that so that we have some folks who are already familiar with the LISA structure, but also to keep some of the familiar faces there to help with the community and the transition.
What is the LISA structure for English language learners?
We have an ELL person in each building, and then we have a district-wide person who coordinates all of that. So we would provide the same support there.
And how is that not included? Because they existing do not have that, to my understanding.
They have a part-time ELL person at OMA right now.
And so the model you're talking about is a little bit different than that.
Yes, we would assume that we would need a full-time person there who would do the pullouts and the testing and the intervention with those students,
Right.
as
So
we do on our other campuses.
The budget doesn't project that. It wouldn't be until 2021, 2022 then, because there's no staff changes.
Yes, it will change.
And then the budget.
The number of staff will change, after 2020-21, 21-22, we will have more staff.
Mm-hmm.
And then our projection number for the enrollment is going to increase. Our budget is going to increase too. Again, the first years we understand, because of low enrollment, this is why we want to go to with worse numbers. So we just say like 200, but maybe we will have more than 200. So we want to be safe. And right now, currently, we have around 84 new interested students. If we add with these, interested ones, also returning ones, it's over 200 now, They are planning to come to LISA, but we didn't start advertising yet.
Mm-hmm.
We will have our advertising, we will reach out to community. We are hoping to get more numbers, and we have availability in the building because we have fewer class sizes. For example, 7th grade 7 students, 6th grade 8 students. So hopefully we will have more students, and then our budget is going to be better than projected amount.
I still am uncomfortable with the thought that you have a potential increase in the number of students that are not English language speaking as their natural language, their common language, their regular language, but not having the significant change with staff. So if you're waiting until 2021, 2022, you're talking all of the rest this year, next year, and then it would be the following year. You're saying you have the budget and expectation to change your staffing and your salaries and your budget to address that.
Yeah, Dr. Fati, we're looking at the budget sheet that you had included in the application. And in it, you're showing your projected number of students for 2019-20 at 190 with 29 projected staff. And then the next year, you're showing going up to 255 with the same number of staff. So I think that's what Dr. Kramers is referring to, is just, have you projected, as you're projecting your enrollment increase, are you projecting the right number of staff for support, and do you have the finances for that?
I think this 29 is including ELL, like art, music, all teachers, this 29 is including. But the second year, we are not increasing number of sections. So for example, we'll have still one, maybe 6th grade, one 7th grade. So this is why we will be increasing the number of students in each class. So instead of 7 students, there will be, for example, 20. This is why it's not gonna, cause additional staff. We added, for example, all special education, ESL. In this 29, we have all these subjects. But the thing is, the first year, we will have fewer students in each class. But following year, we will have more. But we added special ed, ESL, GT, assistant principals, aides, intervention. So they are all in this 29. But following years, definitely, this 29 will increase. Then we have 600, maybe this is going to go to 50.
Does that
help?
answer your question?
It does. I am really concerned about the budget, the year-end balances that's projected, and all the things that it sounds like that you will need to do. It's pretty limited. So there are some concerns about the budget for me.
Mr. Baldwin, did you have any other questions? No? Okay. Coming back to panel members, I think have AD staff to present an update. Do we have any other questions you want to continue with?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Rogers.
So, lost my place. Okay. So on the teachers and administrators, how many that are at Ozark right now, are y'all looking at replacing only those that aren't, how's that gonna work?
Well, I think first of all, we wanted to see if we get approval, and then we can begin talking and looking at credentials of the current staff. I know that there are several staff members there who hold licensure, who would be fine to move forward. There are some who don't, who were just certified with the Montessori model. So those teachers we may not be able to move forward with because they would have to meet AQT or certification for us to utilize them. So we will begin looking at that if we're approved to move forward. We would, of course, give them priority. If they meet credentials, we would give them priority in hiring. As I said, we want that continuity if we can, if we can keep that. I don't know. We don't know about the administration. We've had very open conversations, very transparent conversations about what roles they might want to have. So we'll be in discussion about that as we move forward if we're approved. I don't want to offer any particular number because I don't want people going, was I that next number?
And really, what I was looking at is
Yeah.
the 200 kids that are right now, you're fixing to turn their world upside down. I know that you've got 134 that indicated that they are interested in going to the LISA, but those are the teachers and the administrators and everyone
Right.
they're used to seeing. And now in a year time, you're fixing to
Yeah. And that's,
not be there anymore.
Right, and that's
so
one of the
obviously that's a
reasons.
concern that I have because those students are about to see that big of a change.
We
And so I
want
was
to
just
keep
wondering how.
as many familiar faces as we possibly can in the school. But obviously we have to also look at the state requirements of licensure, AQT, to have them in the classrooms. So we feel like there is a good number there that we can work with that would keep some of that continuity.
Then I have one more.
Okay, go ahead, and then I have one for you.
And then on that, earlier when Springdale came up, I was just wondering what kind of collaboration does Ozark have right now, and if this is approved, how is Lisa going to address that?
Right now, there is not a working relationship with Springdale School District. We do trade a lot of kids back and forth, and so we have a collaboration with all the schools in the area, the elementary schools and middle schools. We talk frequently. But as far as a partnership with Springdale schools, we're hoping that Lisa will be able to do that, especially in the downtown area, which is where our school is going to be located. So we're hoping that Lisa can establish what we have not been able to establish to this point.
I think moving forward, we would make efforts to establish that collaboration like we have here locally. As we all know, schools sometimes get into the competition business, and we're not trying to go in and take all of the Springdale students. It's a small school. We're not going to put a dent in Springdale. So we want to work together to offer an alternative opportunity for folks who want that smaller environment. I know our robotics team was in Springdale a couple of weeks ago at a tournament, so we're hopeful that some of those kinds of things we can partner together, with some of the things that we're doing here in Central Arkansas. But we would be certainly open to that, and I think our track record has shown that when we say we're open to collaboration, we mean it, and we'll reach out and try to make that happen in any way we can.
My question would be for the finance team at the department. It was mentioned earlier that prior to this year, the school had been operating with some declining balances, and I'm looking out here for our finance folks. And this year, they were projected to end in a positive balance. So I was going to just see if we had an idea if that was attributed to the partnership, or are there other factors involved? So I don't know if we have, and Mr. Rogers may have a little bit of insight on that.
I don't know that we've gone that far in it because Ozark has been working with Lisa, so we weren't checking in on, but they are projected to show increased balance over what they were last year. So they are trending in the right way. So whatever they've been doing this year has been able to have some cost savings.
Okay. Okay, and, well, panel, do you have any other questions at this time? Okay. I think Ms. Kaufman from our Standards and Systems Support, or our Standards for Accreditation, do you have
I do.
any information to share with us?
Deborah Kaufman, Assistant Commissioner of Public School Accountability. Currently, Ozark Montessori Academy in Springdale is showing 3 exceptions in the standards for accreditation, and we would request an oral assurance that they would get those resolved. I think they will be able to resolve them very quickly, but we'd like to have those resolved before the final vote by the state board next month.
Okay, what are those exceptions, in what areas?
One is 1A1, they're missing a required course offering for Arkansas history. 3A5, employment of a general business manager, which I think they have one, but there evidently is a coding error to have that person posted. And then they still have remaining background checks for 5 educators. And so that could be that those 5 have submitted renewals or anything like that that still needs to be worked out. But they need to work with Virginia Perry to get those resolved.
Okay,
Barb Paget, Ozark Montessori, it will be resolved before we leave the building today.
okay. So when you say it would be resolved, do you have someone to teach Arkansas history? Are you teaching
Yes,
it?
we are teaching Arkansas history. It was just an oversight. We had, when we started, we had several exceptions, and we thought they were all cleared, and we were done. As far as the background checks are for people who no longer are at Ozark Montessori at all. But we can correct the Arkansas history while we're here.
Okay, and your your business manager, is that a?
We do have a chief financial officer. Her name is Adrienne McGinnis, and she is here with us today.
Okay, all right, so those sound like issues, but we will definitely need that follow-up, okay? All right, Ms. Hyatt, do you have some things for us?
Okay, so just a couple of things, Mary Claire Hyatt, Arkansas Department of Education, a couple of things that came up during the presentation. So procedurally, essentially what you would be doing if you granted this amendment request would be to acknowledge that Ozark Montessori would give up its charter June 30th, 2019, to amend Lisa's current charter contract to add a license for the new campus in Springdale, which would include the name change and the change of the sponsoring entity. Then to increase the enrollment cap by 600 students for that Springdale campus, and then to transfer the waivers. The current Lisa contract does not expire until 2030, which means that should you grant this license, the license wouldn't expire until 2030. So I just wanted to maybe get some clarification from the applicant, because it sounded to me like maybe they said 5 years. But if it's as a license to the current charter, not a new charter, which that's not what this request is, then it goes by the renewal cycle of the charter contract that exists, which does not expire until 2030.
Okay, so Ms. Hyatt, you need them to clarify that they understand that it would, this is,
I think, yes, I thought I heard them say something about 5 years, and so I'd like them to
Okay.
clarify that they understand that it would be until 2030, and then if they have any additional information they want to provide to the board about planning during that time.
Leanne Baroni, Lisa Academy. The 5 years was just the enrollment projections. It had nothing to do with the length of charter, so.
Okay. Okay, so the 5 years was due to what they projected out on enrollment.
Okay, and on that enrollment, and I may have overlooked it in the amendment request itself, but if we could just get a little bit more information on how that enrollment cap will be rolled out over the next couple of years, and whether they plan to start with all the grades offers or increase those grades over a period of time.
Okay. Yeah, if you could go year by year and give us that information.
So the enrollment, the grade levels, we plan to open as K-8 because there are already students at OMA. So we would need all of those grade levels to be able to ensure that the students there can be given seats to continue at that school location. So we don't have a year-by-year rollout. We would want to open with K-8 the first year.
Okay, but do you have a plan for by how many students you're going to grow each year, or is it?
He's
I
got
think
all
we
of
had
those
talked about
numbers,
that a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit.
You got the year-by-year
But you would,
projection.
I guess the question is there a year-by-year enrollment cap, or is there just the request for the 600, and at whatever
yeah,
point in the next
Yeah,
3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you meet that cap?
right. We were just asking for the 600 so that eventually we could grow toward that. Um, So I'm guessing he's handing you the longer range enrollment projections.
I don't have the step numbers here, but I can come up with the step numbers as well later.
Panel, do you have any questions regarding the enrollment or the anything that we've discussed? Okay. Okay, I think that's going to be difficult for us to see. And we talked about the staffing numbers a little bit earlier. Do you have anything additional you can add?
I can just say, for 2021-22, 42 are projected staff number. For 2022-23, 45. For 23-24, 50. And 24-25, 50. So it is increasing, after 2 years, so year by year.
The budget that's in the information we have says 29, and you're showing 40 staff?
So for 21, 22, 42. So from 29 to 42 the following year, in the third year, we will have 42 staff members.
And 29 the first 2 years. Okay,
But first 2 years, 29. After that, it's increasing each year.
thank you.
And then we have the pro forma, showing we have positive, balance each year.
Okay, Ms. Hyatt, they have some waivers that they are asking for. So can you help us? Are these? You said these waivers were being transferred, or are these waivers that Lisa Academy currently holds that Ozark Montessori does not? Can you help us out with that a little bit?
Sure. So part of the amendment request is to make sure that the waivers that are currently in place at Ozark Montessori would stay in place when it becomes a Lisa school. There are additional waivers listed in the amendment request, and I believe that those are just to make sure that the waivers that they would need, either additional waivers that Ozark didn't have, that Lisa will need, will be in place, or to fully effectuate waivers that Ozark had that may not have been fully effectuated in the past.
So as legal review these, did anything stand out as a concern?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Panel, any additional questions? And is there anything additional then that we would need to address at this time, Mr. Ballard or Ms. Hyatt? Okay, so I think we've gone through and had all of the information, and if there aren't any other questions or discussion, at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I have a motion that, my motion is to add the new licensure for Lisa and transfer the waivers, the appropriate waivers.
Ms. Hyde, do we also need to add, do we need to separate these out and do these separately? I should have asked that before I asked for a motion.
I think the best motion would be to just approve the amendment request as written. That would incorporate all of the provisions, like the licensure, the enrollment by 600 students, the transfer of all of the waivers, and I don't believe that you would need a motion to have Ozark give up their charter, as there's no motion to be had there.
Could we have discussion before we?
I'd like to.
But I would change my
Okay.
motion then to what was recommended by Ms. Hyatt.
Okay, so discussion?
Have a second.
Second.
I'd like to discuss.
Okay, at what point can we discuss? I'm looking for my people here. Okay, all right. So we got a motion to approve the amendment request, and second, we can discuss at this point. Okay, yes.
I'm not concerned with the transfer thing. My concern is with the 600 cap. I would like to I would like to see that probably around the 300 area, just to allow for the opportunity for it to show that the books are going to stay positive, that the performance for the students they have is going to increase. Not that I'm doubting that it will. I would just like to see that before we start allowing it up to 600. And then also the collaboration with Springdale to give Lisa Academy the opportunity to address all that with the cap with the students they have right now before we expand it out bigger. So that's my only concern is with everything. And then with the other things we were talking about with the budget, with the 29 I just felt like there's still a lot of questions that had to be answered, even as far as the administrators, the teachers, the budget. There's a lot of questions, so I'd be more comfortable not going that high with a cap until we see how it's playing out. That's my only concern.
And I second what you're saying, and I think also the concern of it being until 2030. There's a lot of unknowns in this situation, especially Ms. Newton mentioning about the change in the model, and we know that we've got staff that will be working with them to improve, but their ESSA score is a D, so we know that there's a long way to go with the academics, and I know they'll work toward that, so 2030 is also a concern for the length of time to leave that open. I know we can call them back at certain points, but considering the budget, academics, the change in model, it's just a lot to consider of unknowns in this, to think about 2030.
With those concerns noted, I'd be happy to withdraw my motion. Someone else may have one.
Okay.
No, withdraw your second.
So,
I'll withdraw a second in favor of Ms. Newton's proposal that we modify her motion to some extent. I'm not.
okay, so the original motion and second has been withdrawn. So in the discussion, the concern was raised about the increase to 600. And I believe it sounded like you would be more comfortable with a smaller cap to be able to evaluate and see where they are over time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So does anyone, at this time, would anyone like to make a different motion?
I'll make one to accept the amendment request, except for the cap be for 300 rather than the 600.
Second.
Did I say that right, Mary Claire? Right.
Okay. So we have,
Bargain.
Negotiating about 400, just, a few years we can establish a system there, Okay, not 600, but 400.
we have a motion and a second for 300. So is there discussion by the panel?
Do we not want to do anything with the length of time?
The length of time is already established for Lisa Academy.
So we can't specifically in this instance say 5 years?
What I was looking at was if they are showing the improvement and they are showing it, then they could come back and ask for the increased cap.
Right.
Because I'm not saying I'm against it, I just want to see that it's working before we go increasing the cap a whole lot. And that's all I'm saying. That's why I was at the 300, because I know that they have the 200 kids right now, but it still allows for some that if they want to go there, if ever one of the one of Montessori kids want to go there plus another 100 is what I was looking at.
Agreed.
Just to respond to Dr. Kramer's question, since this is a license and not a new charter contract, it would go by the date of expiration of the current charter contract, which is 2030, and the license couldn't be different than that. If this were a new charter, where they were coming and asking for a new charter contract, you could negotiate more on the length of time. But since this is an amendment for a license to the current contract, that time goes by what's already set.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the amendment request, except for the cap to be 300 instead of the proposed 600, and a second to that motion. So at this time, we'll vote on that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. If you will take a moment and record your votes.
Lisa's operations in this area.
In this area of the state. And I believe that's as far as
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm not fired. That's awesome.
Okay, we'll go ahead and state our reasons publicly for the votes. Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, I vote to approve the request. I believe Lisa is a high-quality program and will improve student outcomes. And I also believe you all, as a group, combined group, have thoughtfully considered the program transitions that you will need to make to be successful.
Dr. Kramers?
I voted to approve the amendment request to transition from OMA to Lisa Academy. I do have concerns remaining for budget, academic performance, projections of budget and staffing needs, and they will need to increase collaboration within the community for success.
Okay. Mr. Rogers?
Voted for the motion. I like the transition. I think the transition makes sense, and I do believe it will be successful. I just wanted to see, before we move forward with the larger cap, all the kinks worked out and everything's making sense at that time.
Ms. Newton?
I voted for the motion. Transition plan seems to be well thought out, and the schools have a solid plan for moving forward.
Mr. Wilson?
I voted for the motion. I'm familiar with Lisa's experience in operations in this central area and believe that they have, and I know that they have a solid track record. I believe they have a good program for Northwest Arkansas too.
Okay. And thank you all for being here. I would also add that we do need to make sure that those standards issues are cleared up in the system. So thank you for being here. Okay, panel, I'm going to check to see what you would like to do, if you want to take a lunch break now, or do we want to push on through these next three items on the agenda and then break all at once? So you all help me decide.
We have a 5-minute break.
Yes, okay, we're going to do that. We're going to do a 5-minute quick break and then come back and go ahead with the agenda.
That's good.
All my pins are done. Wait.
she did a STEM program for the leadership. And my pastor had told me, he said, oh, I recommend this person, blah, 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 blah. And I met her at the STEM conference, and she really got that I can still
I'm gonna visit with,
yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm getting ready to start my meeting back, so I'll be back to that. That's the next one. Listen, I said, and then I got to think that be a lot of this. I'll give it. So how's Tony? Let's see, she got, I had no doubt it was good. Okay, I'll let you go. Get back into it.
well, I was gonna visit with, Dr. Hernandez and Johnny after this to say, I think we've got some issues with. I just think the visions aren't aligned, and, there's I think it's, I actually this morning I've just not had time to talk to them, so, but we're gonna, I have it on my list to do after this. I think it's, yeah, I bet that is fun. Okay, are we all back? We're still missing Mr. Baldwin? Okay. We're going to wait just a couple more minutes. Sorry about that. Okay, I think we are now at item number 5 on our action agenda, which is a request for an amendment to Little Rock Prep. And Mr. Ballard, will you please present that for us?
On November the 3rd, 2008, the State Board of Education approved the application for Little Rock Preparatory Academy. The charter is approved to serve students in grades K-8 with a maximum enrollment of 432. Representatives of Little Rock Preparatory Academy are appearing before the panel, the charter authorizing panel, to request an amendment to their current charter.
Okay, will the representatives of the charter and anyone speaking in opposition please stand to receive the oath? Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, understand. I can see it now. Yeah. We will take your affirmation from your verbal affirmation, okay? And if you will state your name and title for the record, you're recognized.
Good morning, I'm Donna Broyles, and I'm the interim superintendent of Little Rock Preparatory Academy.
Okay, and, okay.
Morning. Dr. Pfeffer, members of the panel, my name is Trip Walter. I'm staff attorney with Arkansas Public School Resource Center. And with the panel's permission, I'm going to open up and make a couple introductory comments from the legal and procedural standpoint as how we came to be before you this morning.
Okay.
And then Ms. Broyles will talk more about what's going on at the school right now as far as this issue goes.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Moore from the AD Finance section. She is the one who brought this issue to the school's attention and to my attention. And I believe that the situation is such that Little Rock Prep had believed that it was working under a waiver for minimum teacher salary schedule and was not aware of that until Ms. Moore brought it to their attention. Once she did, then we started working with the school administration and with ADE staff that has been extremely helpful in this process in trying to fashion a waiver to get to you as soon as possible to get the necessary waivers and make sure that the school was in compliance concerning the minimum teacher salary schedule. And the second piece, the rules concerning the posting of it, obviously not seeking for a waiver for the requirement to post the schedule, but just that the schedule that was posted was not going to be in compliance with the minimum salary schedule.
Donna Broyles with Little Rock Prep. I want to let you guys know I took over as interim superintendent January the 1st, and when this was brought to my attention, we have been communicating very collectively with APSRC and ADE. I've met with Deborah Kaufman, Tripp Walter, and Virginia Perry, who have been very helpful with me. My board and I are studying the salary, reviewing all of that, and our goal is to make sure that we are in compliance with the waiver and also not just meeting the minimum salary requirements, but also wanting to pay our teachers because this impacts attrition and it also impacts student performance overall long term. So, but we have been working very collectively with ADE on trying to get everything in compliance. Any questions?
Okay. Do we have anyone to speak in opposition, Ms. Hyatt? No? Okay. And if you are ready for us, then yes, we can go ahead and proceed with questions, okay? No questions? Mr. Baldwin, do you have questions? Okay. Mr. Rogers? Ms. Newton?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No question.
No questions. Okay. Doesn't look like we have questions. I would like to ask one on the waiver you're seeking on posting the documents to the website. How do you, I look at that as a way for family and community engagement. A website's a great tool for all of that. So I just would be curious as far as, communication with families or, when questions come up about that information, is not having those there, does that create issues or limit or?
No, and it's been, my executive assistant and I worked very closely together on trying to update not just the state required components of the website, but making sure that we involve and communicate with all of our events to all of our families, because we want them to know what's going on in our school, especially as we've been transitioning since December 31st. So we do know that we've got some work to do on that.
May I just add a short piece, Dr. And Ms. Broyles can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think on that piece that they have been complying with that as far as posting the salary schedule that they do operate under and will certainly continue to do so in the future. The only reason for that waiver is, at least for a time, they are going to have a salary schedule that does not meet the state minimum requirements, so theirs would look different than the school districts would. So
do you still post things like your personnel policies? You still post those as well? Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't mean, yes, this is the only piece of it. It's all lumped together, but yes, they've been fully complying with the state required information piece.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Hyde, is there anything else we need to discuss with that? Okay, so if there are not any questions or need for discussion, we can make a decision or make a motion on this waiver request.
I move the approval of the waiver request.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the waiver request. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right. We will record our responses and give you feedback. But congratulations, your amendment
Thank
request
you.
was approved.
Thank you, panel.
Okay, Mr. Baldwin.
Yes, I voted in favor of the request, and I believe it's appropriate and reasonable.
Dr. Kramers.
I voted for the request. They are working to update the minimum salary schedule to meet compliance.
Ms. Newton.
I voted for the request granting the waiver addresses compliance with ABE charter rules and regulations.
Mr. Rogers.
I voted for. I didn't have any concerns with the waiver.
Mr. Wilson.
I voted for the motion for the same reasons, to get the salaries in compliance.
Okay, thank you, panel. And we will move on to item number 6, which is a request, an amendment request for Southeast Arkansas Preparatory High School. Mr. Ballard, you're recognized.
On August 17, 2017, the Charter Authorizing Panel approved the application for Southeast Arkansas Preparatory High School. The charter is approved to serve students in grades 9 through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 220. Representatives of Southeast Arkansas Preparatory High School are appearing before the Charter Authorizing Panel to request an amendment to their current charter. I would like to note to the panel that they have withdrawn their amendment request for the business manager waiver.
All right, will the representatives of the charter and anyone speaking in opposition please stand to receive the oath? Okay. If you raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you. If you'll state your name and title for the record, you'll be recognized.
Good morning. My name is Alex Nogurola. I'm the school leader for Southeast Arkansas Prep. We have a number of waivers here before you today. I'm just going to go in the order in which they're presented to you. The first is for the uniform school dates for the beginning and end of a school year. We're asking to start on August 13th for any year in which we hold this waiver. There are a few reasons why. First, our school year is longer than the 178 required. We also have multiple professional development days built into our calendar throughout the school year. So every 5 to 6 weeks, our students take what's called a battle, since we're the Warriors and that's their interim assessment. And then our teachers have a data analysis day where there are no students present. So that happens 5 to 6 times throughout the school year. So they're getting these days off throughout the year, which would make our last school day start going into June and start chipping away at their summer in the June month, and would hinder our ability to offer a robust summer school program when we need to offer that for some of our students. As far as it goes for a guidance counselor, we're asking for a waiver from that. We split that role among multiple people on our campus. So our dean of students handles socio-emotional counseling. I have a teacher who has a reduced schedule, so she can deal with schedules, academic counseling, making sure our students are on track towards graduation. I play a strong hand in that as well, making sure our students are on track with graduation. We have an audit sheet that every student has in their file to make sure they're getting all their credits they need. So we've kind of taken that role and split it out among multiple people on our campus so that they can get that support that they need. We also have another teacher who has a reduced course load to do testing, even though that's not what a guidance counselor is always supposed to do. We know guidance counselors get that piece, so we also have a teacher who has an extra prep period to help with that testing coordinator piece that most guidance counselors deal with.
library media specialist. We don't have a formal library on our campus. Our students carry around Chromebooks, and our English teachers have classroom libraries. So we utilize those pretty heavily for our students. Our students are able to access ebooks on their Chromebooks when they need to, and can readily be able to interact with that. We're currently working on trying to make that even more robust for our students. They have an opportunity to continue to grow and expand. These next three relating to our school board kind of help us come into compliance with current law. Our school board is appointed, so we don't have school board elections. And I work with Mary Claire Hyatt on this very closely to make sure we hit every piece that relates to a school board election. There's an application process. Our board then considers that application and then would approve or decline to accept somebody on the board based off of a variety of reasons. For our school board size, we're currently hoping to be able to have the option up to 9 board members, and the reason that is we just want to have more community involvement. We currently have 7 board members, which is the maximum by statute. Our school board has asked for the ability to be able to try to get more people involved from the community, particularly from different sectors, as we try to really navigate a community that is trying to rebuild in Pine Bluff through the Go Forward campaign, with the initiatives the mayor's taking on. We really want to try to get the voices of more people involved. And then the last waiver we're requesting, and then I'll go into more depth on each of these, deals with our school board meetings. We have a lot of board members who, as I said, are active participants in the community and can't necessarily always be on our campus present for that time, but are always happy to phone in and be a part of the conversation. Statute limits that to 3 meetings in order for them to count towards a quorum. We'd just like some flexibility in that area so that they can continue to be the active and involved community members they are, but still be involved in the governance of our school.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? No? Okay. And you do have additional time if there's anything additional to add.
I just want to, really iterate, none of the waivers we're requesting diminish the services our students get. Our students still get a very robust program from us. We split that role among multiple people so they can become experts, particularly with like the guidance counselor. They become experts in that area. So that teacher who deals with scheduling and academic and career counseling, she doesn't have 80 other things that a guidance counselor thinks about at that given moment to worry about. She really has focused on these are the 22 required courses for our students to graduate. She has her checklist that she can go off and check and make sure our students are getting what they need and are on track, and then has been going to the appropriate e-school trainings to make sure that happens. I think with the socio-emotional counseling, our Dean of Students does that on a regular basis anyways. And so him really honing in on those for our students and really having the capacity to do that has really been an asset to our school too. I just really want to iterate that our students are getting all the services I think a student would if these people were in our building. It's just provided by multiple different people instead of one person, and they know this is the expert in this area.
Are you ready for questions from the panel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, I'll start with Ms. Newton.
A couple of questions around the waiver of 2 and 3, guidance counselor, first of all. I'm thinking that there are educational requirements that for guidance counselors specific to that particular job. So the first thing, would that be splitting those, would that compromise that background in educational training? And I'm just wondering if those 2 things are driven by economics more than anything else as it relates to having someone specific and then having them divided up between people that are already doing things. So the first thing is the educational requirement, because I thought that, some time ago there was a requirement of a master's degree, so many years teaching experience for a guidance counselor. And then relative to your enrollment, does that create an onus on this person to do, just a lot of work? So.
Yes, ma'am. I think to take the first point of that, this waiver would waive us from those educational requirements you're talking about because we have it split up among multiple people. We use our more
veteran teachers who have multiple years of experience teaching to take on these additional responsibilities with this broken out.
But is it driven, I'm trying to see if it's driven by economics.
so-
So that's a question number one.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it more of a logical approach, or, you know, something that that makes the most sense based on what students need? Or is it something that starts first with the economics of it all and then blends down into the other
I think
parceling out?
it's a twofold. We don't have a large enough of an enrollment to have such a high administrative team. You know, like I have a dean of students, he teaches a career readiness course as a part of his regular responsibilities. And so part of it is just we don't have a size to have a ton of support staff, but also by encouraging our teachers to become leaders this way, we're trying to build a leadership pipeline within the school. So I think it also has a way to come back to our students. We need teachers who are invested, and by investing them, by becoming those teacher leaders, we're finding ways to continue to retain those teachers over time, because that's some of their goals, is to become that. So like the person who does our academic counseling does desire to eventually become a school administrator, whether that's a dean of academics, that's a school principal herself in the future. It's able to help us retain her and give her some of those extra responsibilities, which again is in service of our students.
Hopefully the last thing is, what if that piece of the puzzle is taken away? You get someone that's not interested in doing anything but what they're doing, and that extra piece is not. So if that's three or four positions now divided out, if that's one position divided out to 3 people or 4 people, what if 2 people don't show a strength in being able to do that?
I'm not sure I quite understand. I think what I do is when we're hiring our staff, and while I'm thinking about who gets those kinds of positions, that's a conversation I have with that staff member. It's not just when I hire you, you're doing that. It's for these particular people. It was, hey, this is a gap we have here at the school. We really need to develop a stronger academic and career counseling program. Can I count on you to help me with that, knowing that you eventually want to get into school leadership yourself, and be able to do that with them and build that pipeline for them? I think if we were to have that kind of attrition you're talking about, then it'd be the onus on the person who's in the hiring position, which is me, to find people who I hire on to take those positions on, or continue to build within our own staff. Like, I have a staff of 10 teachers, so if 2 people left, I have other staff members I can look at and see, how do I coach you, and see if we can get you to want to be able to develop in this way too.
And you're located, your campus is?
In Pine Bluff. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Along the same lines, talking about, one of the pieces that counselors deal with is an academic focus, working with students, but also another piece is the social emotional development. You referenced you have a dean of students. I'm wondering, about the background of that dean of students, and whether or not you do any contracting with any community organizations that might have where students might have access to social workers, or people who are trained to work with kids in that area.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do that in 3 different parts. First, our current dean of students has a background in mental health counseling. He left that field to come join our school. He worked for one of the local companies in our area. The second piece is we do actively try to work with the multiple mental health organizations in the community: Southeast Arkansas Behavioral Center, Pinnacle Point, which is both here in Little Rock and in Pine Bluff. I'm running out of my names at the top of my head, but we do those pieces. Their counselors are welcome to come into our school and meet with our students when they need to. We actively give referral forms out to students who need them when we can't always provide every single service here within our school. We are trying to build what might be a stronger mentorship program with community partners too, to come in and do that during some of our activity periods. And then the last piece I'll say to that is we have an advisory period that happens once to twice a week, depending on the week, where students are getting embedded socio-emotional skills with the program we purchase, so that they can build some of those skills as well as a part of their advisory period. So I think to that point, we do actively try to work with our community partners in that way and advocate for our students to go there when we know there's been a traumatic experience that they need some extra counseling on.
Questions? Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, the question I have is on the waiver for the school board meetings. And I guess the first part of the question would be how many board members do you have right now? And how often are board members missing the meetings because they're busy elsewhere?
We have 7 board members right now. The attendance has, we've never not had a quorum, I can say that. I think the biggest thing is we have some board members who have a meeting here in Little Rock, and to get back down to Pine Bluff at the start of our board meeting is just not always feasible, or they're traveling as a part of their natural employment outside of the school, and so they call in and be a part of that, and they have the option up to 3 meetings for that to still be a part of our quorum. They can't participate in an executive session at that point, and we're not asking them to be able to participate in an executive session still as a part of the law, but that 3 meetings has limited some of our members. We have one who's at that 3 meeting limit, but her work often brings her up to Little Rock or across the state, and she calls in when she can at that point, because it's not always feasible to be back in Pine Bluff at time for our board meetings start. But we do have our 7 members filled up and from different sectors of the community, and we're excited about that. And we're excited that they're actively involved in the community as well.
Dr. Kramers?
Just kind of comment on the same, with increasing to 9 board members, sometimes that is a challenge to get quorum and to get consensus on things as well. So have you, although it may add some additional feedback to your group, is that a concern that you've talked about as a team?
It's not something we've specifically addressed as a team, and we have 2 of our board members here who can also, I'm sure, speak to that if you need them to. We typically have a pretty good percentage of our board members always present, so getting a quorum has really not been an issue for us. And because of that flexibility of the 3 meetings, we really tried to navigate that together and, make sure that happens. As far as consensus goes, I think the diversity of voice is really where our board's trying to come from and make sure we're doing what's best for kids every day. We have people who come from a business background, some who come from education background, and some who come from, we have one from health background, 2 from health background. So all of those different pieces kind of come together, and that diversity of voice is incredibly important for our community to make sure we're doing what's right to service our kids.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent point, but not to the point where you end up where it's a barrier. So that's my only concern, is if you end up where it's a barrier in that instance. But understand.
I'll take that under advisement, and I'm happy to have some of our board members be thinking about that too. And if that's something we need to come back and ask for in a future time, once they've had time to consider that, I think that's also an appropriate thing that they can spend the time really navigating themselves. Mm-hmm. But I think the flexibility piece of making sure we get more voice and really try to involve the community more is where they're headed.
Okay.
And we haven't seen a roadblock with consensus a ton recently with our board. They've really kind of congealed around, we know what's best for kids and moving ahead and making sure we're doing what's best for kids.
Mm-hmm. And my other question on the board meetings to be able to call in, does the waiver in this instance, my question just to whomever can answer, does that mean that a vote can occur by distance, remote also in those instances?
Mary Claire Hyde, Arkansas Department of Education, yes. So the law right now allows for members to attend virtually, I believe, 3 meetings. It has kind of been amended over time to start allowing for other forms of attendance. I think as technology changes, lots of charter schools do have waivers of those provisions to allow board members to attend virtually. And just as if someone were to call in here, they can vote over the phone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Going this way, questions? Mr. Rogers, did you have one? Okay.
I have
Ms.
another
Newton.
question, a library specialist. How does a Chromebook, how does that equate the services or the access? How does that work?
So
You say when
students-
they have Chromebooks as opposed to a library specialist, isn't there, does that create a gap in terms of what a library, maybe I'm not sure what a library specialist provides, but if it's, we need a waiver for it, certainly something that is concerning about the Chromebook being the substitute for a staff member?
I think in multiple ways, this gives us the flexibility to utilize the technology we have on our campus. So like our students have their own computer with them at all times. We have a one-to-one environment. And so whereas they might have to go to a physical room to check out a book, they can open up their computer, log into a site, and they have a selection of books that they can pick from. So while it might seem like we're substituting a person out of the building, it's still giving them the same access they would have if you were to walk into the library at Pine Bluff High. That librarian's sitting there handling with physical books, and our English classrooms have those physical books, so those English teachers can still do that, but then they can open up their Chromebook, log into a site, and have access to the same number of books that they would if they were to just walk into a physical library.
And I don't mean to be confrontational in the sense that I just may not understand, but you've got a position that requires a master's degree. And so you would assume that she'd do more than, or he would do more than just help assist in checking out books. I don't know, maybe somebody needs to.
I think school, from what my understanding is, some schools use that person in a different variety of roles to prioritize buying of books across the campus. You know, again, for the English teachers and in that library, I think that person typically is also responsible for the technology on the campus in that space. So like the Chromebooks I'm talking about with my students, if there's a Chromebook cart in a school, that person would be handling that and making sure those updates happen with somebody in a central office. But again, due to our size and having such a small campus, those things kind of consolidate among the people we already have there. So like, we have a Chromebook cart that's locked away in a room that the IT and administrators can get to. So whereas you might have a larger campus with like many hundreds of students and multiple Chromebook carts that a library media specialist would handle, we just don't have that kind of volume that might warrant a person in that role. So again, it's our size doesn't necessarily warrant somebody in that role at this given time. I think if we got up to our maximum enrollment and actually look for an expansion of that in the long-term future, we might need to consider filling that role in. And I think that's something that is not lost on us, but given our current size and our current kind of situation with how we handle technology and how we handle our other services to students, just having a person in that role just does not logically make sense for us at this time.
So can I ask a question? Is this your first year in operation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you opened in the fall
Yes,
of
ma'am.
18. Do you currently have a counselor or a library media specialist?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but you did not have the waivers for those positions.
So something happened from the actual application to now where we initially applied for those in our initial application, and then when the standards for accreditation changed over, something happened in that not transferring correctly, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
I do remember those being a part of our initial application, but we don't have them now, and we're just trying to come back into full legal compliance with the standards for accreditation and ADE rules.
Okay, and I think help is here.
Mary Claire Hyatt. So I think that a department has been working very closely with Southeast Arkansas Prep over the past couple of months. In those conversations, we noted that there were some missing waivers that they believed that they had that weren't fully effectuated or were just missing. And I do think that that comes from some misunderstanding between the original application process and some were just left off. It's really common, as I'm sure you remember from this past application cycle, for new charters to leave off waivers that they need and then figure out they need them and come back. Legal doesn't have any type of concern with the ones that asked, and we did work very closely with them to make sure they were requesting the ones that they needed in order to continue running the school as they happen.
Okay, so legal doesn't have any issue with it. I'd like to ask Mr. Ballard if the operations end of it or the requirement end of it, or your staff have any concerns or questions?
Not at this time.
Specifically about the library, the media specialist, I'm sorry, and the guidance counselor.
Okay. So we know that they have, they're in the process of getting academically and operationally sound. Currently not at this time for any hard issues, or not, especially for the waivers that are being requested right now. We don't have any concerns.
Don't have any what?
Concern.
Any concerns?
And I don't know how helpful this is, but I will just mention that most charters, if not all charters, there may be one or two that don't have waivers of the guidance counselor provisions and the library media specialist provisions, as well as the board provisions that are listed too. So this isn't a unique request.
I would like to say that I really am trying to work with ADE and legal, finance, academics, and the charter office to just put us in full compliance with Arkansas rules and law, particularly given how we practice. We have 85 students right now, and so just given our size and where we're trying to go, just trying to operate within how most of the charters in the state operate, and making sure that we are fully effectuating what we need to effectuate in order to be in full compliance.
Panel members, do you have additional questions?
I have no.
Mr. Rogers, you do have one?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one, and it's not related to these waivers at all. The former superintendent,
Yes, sir.
is he through? Have y'all cut ties with him?
Yes, sir.
I just want that on record.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Scott, do you need to address something? Freddie Scott, Operations Manager, Charter Schools Office. Just want to provide some clarity on the question about remote board attendance. Should you go that route, just one thing that the schools should always be conscious of, there's an open meeting. So it makes good sense, best practices to ensure that the call-in information that the board member has calling in is also made available to the public as well, so that they may be participants and not miss out on the Open Meetings Act. Okay, are there any remaining issues that need to be discussed with this?
Deborah Kaufman, Public School Accountability. We will be working with this charter for senior transcripts. They only have 12 seniors on their list at present, so I can't discuss any issues with you because of the small number of students to protect student privacy. But I think those are issues that we can resolve very quickly. They may be coding issues.
To speak to transcripts super quick, we're working on coding them in from the variety of school districts these students are coming from, and we're trying to find ways to make sure that things get coded correctly. So I appreciate being able to work with Dr. Kaufman on that.
Okay. Ms. Hyatt?
I just wanted to note one thing for clarity. On the amendment request, all of the statutes are written as 16 dash, and then the numbers, those should all be 6 dash, and I just wanted to make sure that we clarified that, so you weren't, I don't even know what's in Title 16, so just make sure we're not granting waivers of that.
I didn't catch that.
Okay, so if we don't have any remaining questions, at this time, we can make a decision, or comments?
Would you publicly confirm that information for the board meetings would be made public as he suggested?
Yes, ma'am. We'll put it at the bottom of our agenda where they can call in
Okay,
for future meetings.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I think before we move into making a recommendation, I think we have concerns here today, as our charter office and our attorney has noted, that what you're asking for is in line with what most other charters seek. However, I think it's the fact of coming back over a year and a half into operation. You know, you're over halfway through the first year of operation, now coming back and doing this. So it does give us some pause and concern, I think, as far as the planning and the resources to follow through. So we will have an opportunity to see this first year success when information comes out in the early fall. So you know, I think there are just a lot of things here that cause us to ask questions, and we want to make sure everything from the governance structure, and that starts with the board and the meetings, all the way through down to the last detail of academic support for students. So I would just like to say there are some concerns when we're having to come back and do some cleanup after the fact, but we also realize the transition that we went through with the updates to rules and regs, and that also could play a part. So with that, at this time, if I would entertain a motion.
Well, Madam Chairman, I'll move that the amendment request be approved, with a little concern about the guidance counselors. Sounds like they're spread pretty thin to me, but I think with proper cooperation with the department, I think some of those things that y'all mentioned can be straightened out.
So we have a motion to approve the amendment request
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so your amendment request has been approved. Take just a moment for panel members to record their responses.
Come on, Kelly.
Okay, we're going to start with Mr. Wilson. Looks like his response is in the document.
I voted for the motion. I think that the remaining issues can be satisfied or corrected with the help of the department staff. It sounds like they're working on it to me.
Okay, Mr. Rogers.
I voted for the request. This is a small charter and needs to be able to balance its people and finances with the needs of their student population. Other charters have similar requests.
Okay, Ms. Newton.
I voted for the amendment based on the request, voted on the amendment request with the condition that the charter's operation will be reviewed at the end of the school year.
Dr. Kramers.
I voted to approve the amendment request. This small school, it seems an appropriate waiver request.
And Mr. Baldwin.
Yes, I also voted for the request, and I believe the waivers requested are consistent with other small charter school practices.
Okay, thank you, panel. And we appreciate Southeast Arkansas Prep being here. The next two items on our action agenda, both schools have said they think that they're pretty quick items. So if the panel is ready, we're going to keep moving. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is the request for the Fayetteville Virtual Academy. Mr. Ballard, would you present that for us?
Yes, ma'am. On November 18, 2015, the Charter Authorizing Panel approved the application for Fayetteville Virtual Academy. The charter is approved to serve students in grades K through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 500. Representatives of Fayetteville Virtual Academy are appearing before the Charter Authorizing Panel to request an amendment to their current charter.
Okay, well, All representatives of the charter and anyone speaking in opposition, please stand to receive the oath. Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. Thank you. And we'll just ask that anyone who is speaking, please state your name, title for the record, and you're recognized, and you have 20 minutes to present your amendment request.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for hearing us and for allowing us to go before you break for lunch, if you're going to have lunch. We'll try to be brief in our comments. My name is Megan Slocum. I'm Associate Superintendent at Fayetteville Public Schools, and we appreciate you allowing us the opportunity to be here today. This is a different request than you've probably seen before, but one that comes before you in the efforts of trying to be respectful of your time and also trying to give you some context for why we are making this request. One of the things that we can say that has happened and been consistent with Fayetteville Virtual Academy is that we have an excellent education for students. We want to continue that educational excellence, and that is one of the reasons that we're coming before you today. One of the things we don't want to compromise is our consistency or our quality that is happening in our public schools for virtual students or our face-to-face students. And the other issue that we have had is growth, which is a great thing, but at the same time, you have to be able to have facilities and you have to be able to ensure that you're providing a safe and welcoming environment for students. And so what we're coming today to ask in this request is we've looked at optimal locations for students in kindergarten through third grade. We are wanting to modify our grade level configuration to serve students in grades 4 through 12 instead of the original request of K through 12. We want to do this simply because we want to protect the integrity. It's not something that we don't think that will come forward when we look at a resubmission. That's something we think that will come forward with the resubmission process, but we also want to be true to doing and implementing what we said we were going to do. And so with that, that is our overall request, is to seek that grade level configuration change.
All right. Is there anyone in opposition, Ms. Hyatt? No? All right. Are you ready for questions then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Panel members, any questions on this end? Dr. Kramers?
You may have said it, but if you'll just explain a little bit more thoroughly.
Yes, ma'am.
The reasoning for taking the K-3 away.
We want to remove the K-3 at this point because we are in a physical space that doesn't allow for that to be facilitated at the level we would like for it to be facilitated to. Currently, it's a shared space between professional learning, which is a wonderful thing, and we want to be able to provide quality PD, and we also have students that are there that are being housed in that space. And so with the growth and the access of both, we want to make sure that we can give appropriate physical space when students do come. It is a virtual school, but that doesn't mean that students don't come. We do have students that come on a very regular basis, and so we want to make sure that we can give appropriate space accommodations if students do want to attend physically, and we don't limit that. If they want to come virtually, physically, or in a blended approach, we want to make sure we have space available for teachers who need to provide tutorials, for RTI, for students with special needs, whatever the interventions are, we want to make sure we have available space to do that.
Any questions on this end? All right, does not look like we have questions. Are there any, looks like we don't have any other issues. So with that
Just
said.
one more question, I apologize.
Okay.
For those, since it's for the remainder of the charter approval, you're seeking educational partnerships, will it affect, like when would that go into effect where there may be families that have to have a change of plan, like for the remainder of the school year, or what happens with, let's say if I'm in kindergarten, first, second, third grader, what's going to happen to them in the next few months?
We currently serve students in 4th through 12th.
Okay.
What we're asking to is to continue to serve the students we're serving for the duration of the charter.
Okay.
Allow us, we're in a growing city with a growing university, with a growing school district, which is a great problem, but real estate is at a premium, space is at a premium, and so we want to make sure that we make solid decisions that will be long-term sustainable options for us. And so I don't see any
lack of service for students. We will continue on with the operational services that we've offered. We just want to say, give us an opportunity to look at additional physical spaces for students, and then in our upcoming, when we ask for the renewal, being able to be allowed at that point to flex out to K-12.
So you're currently not, you said you're not serving K through 2
Yes,
right
ma'am,
now?
that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion. And actually, before we do that, it looked like on the amendment request, there were 3 parts. Changing the superintendent of record
Yes, ma'am.
and the principal,
Yes, ma'am.
updating those, and then the
Grade
the grade
configuration.
configuration. So if we
Yes,
approve the amendment request, that would be, all 3 of those would be included in that motion.
Thank you.
Make a motion we approve the amendment request.
Okay, I have a motion for Mr. Rogers to approve.
Second.
In a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank
And
you.
we'll record our responses if you would like to have our feedback. Okay, we'll go through our reasons. Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, I voted for the request. I believe the requests are reasonable and appropriate.
Okay. Dr. Kramers?
I voted to approve the amendment request. The school has clear rationale with space limitations and other considerations.
Mr. Rogers?
Voted for the amendment. Don't have any concerns.
Okay. And Ms. Newton?
I voted for the amendment request. The adjustment to the present charter were logical and practical.
And Mr. Wilson?
I voted for the amendment. It appeared to be a routine request and a reasonable strategy.
Okay. Thank you all very much for being here with us today. And that brings us to item number 8, which is a request for the Polk County Virtual Academy. And if Mr. Ballard would let you present this item for us.
Okay. On October 19, 2017, the Charter Authorizing Panel approved the application for Polk County Virtual Academy. The charter is approved to serve students in grades K through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 200. Representatives of Polk County Virtual Academy are appearing before the Charter Authorizing Panel to request an amendment to the current charter.
Okay, well, all representatives of the charter and anyone speaking in opposition, please stand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay? If you'll state your name and title for the record, you'll be recognized. You have 20
I'm
minutes.
Denny Weston, Superintendent of Mena Public Schools, as well as Polk County Virtual Academy.
Jeannie Smith, Assistant Superintendent, as well as Director of Polk County Virtual Academy.
We're ready.
We are here to ask for a waiver for the principal licensure, not necessarily the waiver of a principal. I am currently serving in that role, and I was surprised when we had a standards of accreditation violation for a high school principal. I didn't realize that my district leadership license would not cover the high school principal. I currently hold a building principal license of a K-9, so we were missing the 10, 11, and 12, and I mistakenly assumed that I could do that. So I'm asking for a waiver for that particular piece of licensure.
Okay. Are you ready for our questions then?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on this end? Any questions? Okay, it doesn't look like there are any questions. We all know licensure can be tricky with some of
Yes,
those
ma'am.
different building levels and as you're adding on. So if there aren't any questions, I would entertain a motion.
So move. Move the approval of the.
Okay. So I have a motion to approve the amendment request
Second.
and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, you have a unanimous vote to approve that amendment request. We appreciate you being here. And as you're recording your responses,
I'm not doing that till Kelly gets here. Kelly will just say.
I think I could summarize all of your responses.
Do like you've just been putting no concern.
Okay, Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, thank you. I voted for the request, which I considered reasonable and appropriate.
Dr. Kramers?
I voted for the amendment request. It seems reasonable and appropriate.
Mr. Rogers?
I voted for the request, no concerns.
Ms. Newton?
I also voted for the request with the same reason, no concerns.
And Mr. Wilson?
I voted for it because it seemed to be a routine request.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And I think this brings us to the last item on our agenda. Is that correct? Okay. Mr. Ballard, we have requests for amendments to class size and teaching load rules.
All right. On October 29, 2018, new ADE rules governing class size and teaching load became effective, necessitating charter schools holding a waiver of the standards for accreditation, Section 1-A6, obtain a waiver of new rules to fully effectuate the waiver topic. ADE staff is requesting approval of the transition of these waivers on behalf of several charter schools.
So all those schools that are listed, this is an appropriate waiver then for all those schools that have been listed there. Okay, are there any questions for ADE staff from the panel members? Okay. And these, again, are the result of the change in standards for accreditation and the law that changed and updated this. If there are not any questions, I would entertain a motion.
Move the approval of the amendment, the amendments.
Okay, having a motion to approve the amendment
Second.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have a unanimous vote to approve that.
Don't ask me to justify it. This just conforms all the other stuff.
And I'm going to say, instead of going through and reading out these, we can all say we approve these because this is part of the transition to our new standards, if everyone is in agreement with that. Okay. All right. Are there any other concerns? Anything we need to discuss as a board? All right. Mr. Ballard, anything you need us to know for anything upcoming? No? Our next meeting is scheduled for, yeah. So right now it's scheduled in May. Is that correct? What is that May date? Do you have it handy?
Next meeting, May something.
Yeah, it's gonna be May. I think they have it down.
We'll just have, if your office can just update us, I don't think I have it on my calendar, so let's make sure and get those sent out to be sure that we're all prepared. So, panel, unless there's something that comes up in the meantime, our schedule is for May, our next meeting. Okay, if there's not anything further, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, have a motion. All those in favor? All right.
With gratitude, Madam Chairman, thank you very much.